You ever get that weird itch? The one that tells you something's off, but when you look around, everything looks normal? That was my life with Olivia. 2 years married, 5 together, and we were the kind of couple people posted hashtag goals about. At least, that's what I thought. Same shared Spotify account, same toothpaste tube, same takeout orders every Friday night. Except lately, something about those Fridays had started to shift. I'd be scrolling our Spotify library for background noise, usually while cleaning or fixing something around the house, when I noticed a curious little hiccup. A playlist named Midnight Drive would disappear, then show up again. Same songs, same cover image, same title. Deleted. Remade. Over and over. The playlist wasn't mine. I knew that for sure. I wasn't the Midnight Drive and slow jams kind of guy. That was Olivia's vibe when she'd light a candle and pretend we lived in a movie. She swore music helped her get into the zone for her freelance writing, which lately involved locking herself in the guest room 3 nights a week. One night, while she was editing and I was half buzzed from a beer and bored, I noticed the playlist had been renamed to Late Night Echo. Different name, but same tracks. I remembered them clearly because of how often they showed up on our shared, recently played. Marvin Gaye, SZA, James Blake, and a weird remix of that old Alicia Keys song, Unthinkable. The kind of romantic, almost confessional music you'd only cue up if you were trying to get someone's clothes off or convince them to make a mistake. That was my itch. I'm a tech guy by trade. I fix things. I analyze patterns. And when patterns break, I notice. So I started logging every version of that playlist using a simple script that pinged our Spotify API every time the library updated. I built a spreadsheet tracking creation and deletion timestamps, matching each to Olivia's work sessions and calendar blocks. Patterns don't lie. People do. Olivia always deleted the playlist after 2 a.m. Always. And it always returned within 48 hours. And get this, it was always created from the same device ID, which wasn't her laptop or phone. It was an iPad she never told me about. I only figured that out after checking the device log from our Spotify family plan settings. That little mystery tablet wasn't registered under her name either. Just showed up as Olivia's other iPad. We didn't own another iPad. I sat on that for a few days, watching the pattern repeat. She'd play the playlist between 11 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. from the mystery iPad, then delete it, then resurrect it with slight tweaks. A new track, a new name, but the same mood, steamy, vulnerable, intimate. Not writing music, not study tracks, definitely not background noise. So I got curious, not jealous, just professionally suspicious. Spotify stores logs for playback and interactions, metadata that tracks what played, when, from where, and sometimes, what mic activity was picked up during collaborative jam sessions. It's buried deep, but it's there. I pulled the logs using a developer tool meant for app testers and flagged any activity that came from the unknown iPad. And that's when I found it. Mic data, not songs. Voices. Spotify has this feature where if 2 users duet or sing along during a song's playback, especially with certain karaoke or enhanced lyrics features on, it can store vocal harmonies for user analysis. Olivia, bless her musical little soul, apparently liked to sing. Only, she wasn't singing alone. At first, I chalked it up to the track mixing. But there were 2 distinct voices. Olivia's, no doubt. I could recognize the way her voice cracked when she tried to hit high notes. But the other? Male. Warm. Confident. Occasionally laughing in between lines. Sometimes calling her Liv. Nobody called her Liv. Not me. Not our friends. That was something from her past. College maybe. Or worse, one of those people she'd reconnect with through social media and pretend it was just old friends catching up. That night, I just sat in the dark, headphones on, listening to a poor rendition of Best Part by her and Daniel Caesar, featuring my wife and some mystery tenor doing bedroom duets like it was their foreplay. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't confront her either. That's not how I play. I got methodical. Downloaded every audio file and fed it through a voice analysis AI. Trained it on Olivia's voice, plenty of samples on our smart speaker history and video calls. Then isolated the male voice and ran it against her recent Instagram comments, looking for any guy who called her Liv. The top match? Her sister's fiancé, Jordan. Game on. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen with purpose. Not the half-awake, hey honey, coffee version. The TED Talk fabric of my shirt was ironed, my posture straight. I wasn't sure how to start, but I was clear on the intention, extraction. Morning, Olivia said, lighting a candle like a prize for waking up on time. I smiled, but it was sharp. Good morning. Looked over our Spotify data last night. Her eyes flicked to my phone on the counter, with its cracked screen and a half-working speaker. I tapped it. Interesting pattern. She took a breath. What pattern? The playlist logs. The deletes. And the mystery iPad. Silence. Then she cleared her throat. You dug in. I nodded. Yeah, I did the thing I do. Data, logs, cross-referencing timestamps. My tone was friendly, but not dumb. You mentioned the iPad once. Last summer, you said it got stolen. I forgot. She shifted. Right. I replaced it. Didn't charge the auto backup so Spotify device registration didn't catch it. Cool cover, if I didn't already know the tablet existed only in your digital shadow. Strange because that device ID doesn't match any Apple ID I know. Her eyes narrowed. Maybe I registered it under my email, not yours. Could be. But not with the logs showing the male voice mixing into the duet files exactly when both playlists looped. I also pulled audio metadata. I paused, making sure she saw the phone screen. A waveform, 2 voices, an annotation reading voice 2, male. Her face that morning? Was the problem? Not panic. Not guilt. Just a wobble in the perfect, satin calm she always wore. But then she blinked and recovered. That's interesting. Must be a Spotify glitch. A glitch that deletes and recreates the playlist 3 times a week? That adds male vocal harmonics picked up in $1 million AI? That's a glitch only in fairy tales. But I didn't argue. I let it marinate. Anyway, I said, swapping coffee mugs, I'm doing some extension work today. Might be late. She nodded, bright as a cat with AA plus in deception. Okay. Don't burn yourself out. I left, leaving more questions than answers on purpose. At the office, I spun up a new VM to run a more intense voice comparison. I took the male harmonics and ran them through Google Voice Recognition, a local voice print, and a voice embedding to match facial data pulled from Instagram stories. Within an hour, a name popped up, Jordan Reed. Verified fiancé of my sister-in-law, engaged 3 months ago. Army of wedding photos online, every second Sunday with ring selfies, proposals, engagement parties. Solid, dependable, generous guy. The kind who'd make a decent brother-in-law. Now temporarily everyone's biggest enemy. The thing is, I didn't burst any bubbles. I didn't confront him. I paused. I plotted addiction-style re-entry, just enough speed to excite but not explode. That afternoon, I left work early. My truck pulled into the driveway while the sun still had teeth. I unpacked groceries the same way I unpacked truth, slowly. Lettuce first, then chicken, then oatmeal. No urgency. No tell-us. Just calibration. By the time I lit the stove, my phone buzzed with a notification from my burner email account, an alert from a rogue Spotify log tool I wrote, an email titled, New Duet Upload Detected. Timestamp aligned with midnight the other night. I nudged play. Their voices, singing best part, again, same little smirk she makes before the bridge. The male voice hesitated at the lyrical line, then slipped into the harmony. It was unmistakably Jordan, because he laughs after Olivia hits a high note, like he's waiting for applause. My chest tightened, not jealousy. No, something colder. Like someone just shaved your shingles. I stared at the ceiling while the burners hissed. Dinner was cereal. Milk, not almond. No conversation. Just my silent alertness slicing through stale milk and false pretenses. When she came in around 7, I said nothing initially. I washed my bowl in silence. She sat across. Opened her mouth like she practiced honesty in Zoom mirrors. I'm guessing you found something. I nodded. Yeah, I did. She paused. Eyes closed. Exhaled. I'm sorry. There it was. That small word, but too late. Too cheap in its timing. You singing duets with Jordan? I asked. She stared at the flickering overhead light. It's not what you think. I didn't lean forward. I let the silence do the walking. Then picked up my phone, pulled up the burner app, hit play. The voices filled the kitchen. Warm. Tentative. Personal. Her shoulders dropped. She blinked. That was the pressure point moment. Not resistance. Not defiance. Just the flinch. I thought. I was in love, she said, barely above a whisper. Oh. I raised an eyebrow. And what am I to you? The guy making spreadsheets for fun. I didn't need to frame it as drama. I needed it factual. I deserve truth. Not songs sung in secret. She swallowed. And you? You burned the playlist again last night. She nodded. Why? I asked. Silence. Then, because I didn't want you to find us. That was the crack. I nodded again. Calm. Cold. I appreciate honesty, I said. But it's delivered better in daylight. She closed her eyes. Tomorrow, I thought. Tonight still needs silence. I wasn't sleeping much that week. Every night, I'd lie in bed next to her, watching the slow rise and fall of her breathing, wondering what lyrics were echoing in her head. Every laugh she gave in her sleep, every sigh, started to sound like someone else's voice. It wasn't paranoia anymore. It was pattern recognition. She kept her phone on silent now. Not just the ringer, notifications too. She never used to be that cautious. But when I got up in the middle of the night for a glass of water, I'd catch her screen lighting up in bursts. WhatsApp. Voice memos. Green bubbles. Once, I watched her fumble it under the pillow like a teen hiding texts from mom and dad. I played dumb. Played husband. Kept cooking breakfast. Kept folding laundry. Kept pretending I didn't know that playlist, our mix, Summer 18, had been deleted for the 4th time. Thing is, Spotify isn't built for secrets. And neither is she. I installed a lightweight audio logger on my phone and synced it to her account. No fancy hacking, just a script that grabbed timestamps when voice duets were recorded in Spotify's new collaborative karaoke feature. Beta test users only. She thought it was her secret jam spot. I turned it into a surveillance tool. 3 nights later, the logger pinged at 1:03 a.m. The file was titled, Just the Two of Us.mp3. Classic. I ran it through an AI tool I'd trained on her voice and mine. Didn't match mine? Definitely wasn't a solo. Then I ran it against the last family dinner we'd hosted, specifically the toasts. One voice lined up like a perfect waveform twin. Her sister's fiancé, Trevor. The guy who wore turtlenecks in spring and smelled like cardamom. The guy who once told me crypto was just misunderstood. I always thought he was off, but I figured he was just dating up. I never imagined he was recording late-night love duets with the woman I married. She had taste. And by that, I mean no shame. I spent the next 2 days gathering. Not evidence, materials. I downloaded every single duet, every harmony, every whispered lyric. I compiled them chronologically, including the timestamps and dates, so I could track the entire affair by soundtrack. I even included the background laughter in some clips, tiny little laughs they probably thought were innocent. But there's something especially damning about hearing your wife giggle over Marvin Gaye with a man who's supposed to call you bro. Once I had enough, I exported the whole playlist into a single, curated vinyl set. I went full artisan with it. Hired a local vinyl press that specialized in limited-run romantic memorabilia. I told them it was a wedding anniversary surprise. Asked them to print the record in white with a red swirl. Very sentimental. Very gross. Very effective. Then I called her sister. Not to ruin anything. Not yet. I just wanted to confirm a date. Her birthday dinner. Big restaurant table. Full family gathering. Sister, parents, some extended cousins. Trevor would be there, of course. Because love, and all that. My wife had no clue what I'd prepared. She kept nudging me every night for gift hints, grinning like the cat who already ate the bird and was now taunting the dog. I smiled back. You'll hear it, I said. The night came. She wore a dark green silk dress, one I'd always liked because it made her look calm, clean, elegant. Now it just looked like a lie sewn into fabric. She curled her hair, wore lipstick that matched her wine. She looked like someone auditioning for her own biopic, but hadn't realized the third act was a courtroom drama. At the restaurant, I handed her the gift in a soft cream box, tied with a ribbon. She gasped. Everyone clapped. Her sister leaned over and whispered, "You finally got him to buy you something sentimental." She laughed. "Oh, I bet it's music," she said, unwrapping it with stage-ready grace. "He's always doing something musical." And then she saw it. The vinyl. Her face didn't drop. Not immediately. She tried to keep smiling, like she didn't know what was coming. But I caught it, that tiny twitch near her mouth. That microsecond of recognition. She flipped the cover open. Inside, I'd included a track list. Track 1, Just the Two of Us, 1:03 a.m. session. Track 2, Wicked Game, duet from the hotel bathroom. Track 3, Secret playlist voice memo for Trevor. Track 4, Deleted duet, recovered. Track 5, Laughing over your sister's wedding vows.mp3. The table went silent. I stood up. There's a portable turntable in the car, I said. But honestly, the audio's the least interesting part. Then I nodded toward the waiter. He wheeled out a cart with a cake on it. On top of the cake, a small tablet, playing one of the synced videos. My wife and Trevor, side by side, recording something while tangled in hotel sheets. The cake said, "To New Beginnings," in cursive frosting. Her sister stood, knocked over a glass, walked out. Trevor followed like a glitching NPC. My wife? She didn't say a word. Not then. Because the playlist was still playing. And she knew every lyric. Knew I knew them too. She just sat there, blinking through the silence, stuck between a chorus and a verse that she couldn't escape. She didn't move. Not right away. After the song ended, really ended, dead air, vinyl hiss and all, the only sound at the table was her father scraping his chair back. He didn't say anything either. Just walked away like he'd witnessed a car crash and couldn't even begin to process it. Her mom was staring at her, then at me, then back at her, like some split-second courtroom jury trying to remember which daughter she'd raised right. She finally touched the record, lifted it with both hands, looked at it like it might melt. She turned it over once, then placed it carefully back into the sleeve, like maybe if she just respected the artifact, it would all disappear. "Why?" she whispered. "Not to me." "Not really." I didn't answer. Because I didn't need to. Every track on that record had already answered for me. Trevor was gone. Sister, too. Last I saw of him was through the big window by the restaurant's front door, yelling something to her in the parking lot while she refused to even get in the car. He kept trying to hand her something. Maybe an apology. Maybe her phone. Maybe a contract for the world's worst duet album. My wife, ex-wife? Not yet. Stayed seated while the waiter cleared half the plates and the busboy tried to pretend this wasn't the best night of his life. She didn't touch her wine. Her fork. Nothing. Just stared into the bottomless space where her double life used to live. Eventually, I stood. "I'll call a ride," I told her. "You'll need space." She didn't stop me. Didn't even blink. I left the restaurant. But the story didn't end there. You'd think this was the big climax, the revenge, the reveal, the walk-off. And it was. But life has this funny way of tacking on a post-credit scene when you least expect it. A week later, the vinyl went viral. No, I didn't leak it. Somehow, probably that turtleneck clown trying to win her back, a 45-second snippet of them harmonizing made it onto a TikTok cheater reveal account. The caption was brutal. "Studio microphone, couple records love songs. Except one's already engaged." To her sister. It hit 1.4 million views in 36 hours. The duet? It was mashed up into a remix by a DJ named something like Slanderhertz. The chorus played on loop while people stitched reaction videos. One guy cried. One girl screamed, "YSSSS," and smashed a wine glass for effect. Some influencer lip-synced the entire verse and ended it with "Play stupid games, win playlist prizes." By the end of the week, her real Spotify account was suspended. Copyright issues, abuse reports, public drama. I wasn't surprised. People can smell dishonesty through earbuds these days. I didn't say a thing. Not to the press. Not to the comments section. Not even to her sister. But I did get a notification from her sister. A DM. No words, just a thumbs-up emoji and a link to a GoFundMe titled, "Moving Expenses After Betrayal." I donated $50. Anonymous, of course. The house? Still in both our names, but I started the paperwork. I wasn't in a rush. I figured she'd want to move first, get some distance. Or maybe she'd just squat there, surrounded by old furniture and broken playlists. Her friends? Silent. Muted. Unfollowed. When you burn trust on vinyl, the smoke seeps into every room of your life. Funny thing is, she could sing. I'll give her that. Her voice had always been warm, rich, like a fireplace in fall. But now, even that had a sour note. Every time I thought of her humming, all I could hear was the hiss of silence between verses, the space where loyalty was supposed to live. I had one last thing to do. I went back to the pressing shop. Same guy. Same apron. Same smell of glue and dust. "I need one more copy," I said. "But this one. I want it framed." He didn't ask why. Just nodded and got to work. It hangs in my office now. Black matte frame. White label. Centered. No title. Just the run-out groove etched with one word. Loyalty in my handwriting. A private joke. A memorial. A warning. Some people hang diplomas. Others, wedding photos. Me? I hung the day I stopped being a fool. And if she ever tries to spin another story, I've got the needle ready. The days after the birthday dinner were quiet in the way that ruins aren't. It wasn't noisy, but everything felt abandoned. Like an amphitheater after the concert ends. Echoes everywhere, but nobody left to hear them. I spent most of the next morning at home, staring at the framed vinyl on my office wall. Loyalty etched in the groove still managed to feel expensive, like an art piece or a funeral wreath with a tag. I had pages of documents, hundreds of audio files, logs, screenshots, timestamps. But by the time I left the house that Wednesday morning, I only carried my laptop and a notebook, not a duffel of digital evidence. I was done with evidence. Now it was time for cleanup. Work was bizarrely normal. Clients, deadlines, drywall orders, all of it felt surreal. I kept waiting for someone to walk in and ask, "Hey man, you okay?" But no one did. Maybe they'd seen the TikTok. Maybe they thought the wreckage was mine. Either way, they let me stay in the silence. Later that afternoon, I heard from a lawyer. Not because she'd filed anything, but because I had. I'd made a call the morning after the birthday, just a seed planted. Really. A legal hint dropped. "You know," I told the family attorney over coffee, "I'm thinking ahead. I don't want any loose threads here. You know, joint accounts, house title, the usual." He nodded. "No panic. Just regular business." "Smart," he said. "I'll prepare an agreement. Clear division. Minimal next stage drama." I didn't ask him to mention Spotify logs or birthday cake or emotional misconduct. Lawyers don't need the melodrama. They want bullet points. Assets, liabilities, custody if relevant, no kids involved, and the narrative statement. This separation is collaborative, non-confrontational. Perfect for the cover. When I told Olivia I wanted to talk about the paperwork, she said, "Let's just split it, no drama." So I emailed the terms that night. I attached a scanned version of the framed vinyl under glass. Just a visual. No comment. Next morning signed. Not a word. That was the end of her. Mostly. But I still had one email left unsent. It was drafted on a sleepless Tuesday, lined and bullet-pointed with dry precision. Subject, for the record. Bullet 1. All rights to playlist-related audio recordings and derivatives transfer to me. Bullet 2. Any future use, distribution, or performance of these recordings requires my permission. Bullet 3. To confirm receipt, sign and return this letter by Friday. I'd attached a contract. Legalese. I hovered over send for 2 minutes. Felt hypocritical. But someone had to own the silence now. Someone had to be the final speaker on stage. So I clicked send. No reply. That was enough. By the weekend, the realignment method site vanished. She hadn't posted since the vinyl dropped. No new audio files. No sister's thumbs up tweets. Nothing. Her silence had eaten the noise alive. On Sunday, I met her sister in person for the first time since that night. First official exchange. We met at a cafe mid-morning. I saw additional defiance in her eyes, grief disguised as armor. She tapped her coffee cup. I slid a folder across the table. Inside? The signed contract and a form she'd co-signed for the legal rights. A final handshake sealed in ink. "That's that," I said. "Legally done. Peace." She studied me. I nodded back. No guilt. No satisfaction. Just finality. "Yes," she said. "I'll make sure she knows." I left the cafe feeling empty and weirdly awake. That night, everything became clear. Revenge had worked. It had smashed the playlist, yanked the strings on trust, gotten signatures on contracts. But it hadn't healed anything for me. Not entirely. That vault of anger, betrayal, and midnight choruses had to go somewhere. So I wrote. Not an expose. Not a confession. Just a letter to myself. 6 pages, small handwriting, for paragraphs, acknowledgement, lessons, letting go, moving on. I closed it, sealed the envelope, typed my address, stamped it, set it on the counter. Next morning, I drove to the mailbox and posted it. No return address. But the message wasn't for her. It was for me. Because something silent happened after words are gone. You stop needing an audience. And the person you kept performing for, the one inside your own skull, finally hears the cut and stops bleeding. And out of the quiet, something grows. Still cautious. Still guarded. But alive. The morning felt different. I woke up to sunlight that didn't judge, to silence that didn't sting, and to a calendar devoid of any reminders of birthday dinners or anniversary playlists. The couch cushions still smelled faintly like cereal and coffee. I left them as they were, empty but welcome. The framed vinyl hung in the corner of my office, a monument to survivorship rather than revenge, its word loyalty scratched into the glass like a map marker pointing to where I crossed the line, and where I decided I was done crossing. That weekend, I took a pottery class. Totally unrelated. No thinking required. Just clay and wheel and hands. I enjoyed it. Made a terrible bowl that was lopsided and cracked, but I kept it anyway. Imperfection felt fitting. But Sunday afternoon brought something I didn't expect, a LinkedIn notification. From Melissa. Under her own name. No pseudonyms. Just Olivia Turner with a new headline. Seeking new chapter, freelance editor and creative writer. The cliched stock photo was their two, blonde hair pulled in a messy bun, kind eyes looking over her shoulder. The tagline? Writing my story one word at a time. Groan. I nearly closed the tab, but something, maybe curiosity, or maybe the same quiet ghost that had me track playlists, kept me watching. Her first post was not passive. A note about rebranding herself, how sometimes growth feels like ashes, and the most honest writing is born from regret. It was vague. It was emotion-heavy. It was the same brand of spiritual repositioning she'd used before, but off the mountain this time, in the plain light of the internet. I wasn't surprised. I'd have done the same, minus the public confessionals and melodrama. She had 30 comments. Most were generic support. You got this, red heart. Resilience looks good on you. Bold move. A few were more personal. Her sister, not commenting yet, but liking. Another from Trevor. If it was him, writing. Writing is healing. I'll cheer you on. I blocked him immediately. LinkedIn doesn't care if you're toxic. I did. But I didn't block her. I let her write. I logged off LinkedIn and went for a walk. In the park, the sun felt clearer than it had in weeks. No clouds weighed on me. I carried the notebook with my 6-page letter. I went to a bench by a fern grove, one I hadn't visited since last spring, and pulled the pages out. I reread them. And even though the words were mine, they looked foreign, hopeful, like a stranger wrote them after a long night inside my head. I took them out of the envelope and folded them into the notebook itself. I tore off the envelope flap and tossed it in the trash bin nearby. No return address. No returns. I walked home lighter, the notebook tucked under my coat. That night, I made spaghetti, simple sauce, garlic bread, a green salad. No playlist. Just noise, stove, boiling water, chopping wooden spoon. I ate at the table. No television. No phone. I just ate. And somewhere between the crunchy bread and the red sauce, I realized something. Longevity isn't built on vengeance. It's built on routine. It's built on waking when your lungs fill, on silence that doesn't smother, on moments so mundane they feel sacred simply because they're yours. I still check the kitchen, expecting to see your dishes. Old habits die hard. But they don't own the space. The sink is empty. The cupboard half full. The fridge smells like dinner tonight, not like stale betrayal. The framed vinyl still hangs in that corner. It whispers what I needed to learn. I don't have to replay old records to know the scratch. But I don't have to hate the scar either. Months later, a pamphlet arrived in the mail. White cardstock. Minimalist. A flight discount email enclosed. Return to your roots, Spruce Pine Retreat, now 50% off. They spelled my name wrong. Kyle Turner. First red flag. But what caught my eye was the image, a mountain cabin lifted in golden light, smoke curling from the chimney. I recognized it. It wasn't the den, but it might as well have been its copy. I crumpled it and tossed it in the recycling. I didn't peek back at old Venmo receipts. I didn't download those playlists to confirm lyrics anymore. I let them stay deleted. Because what's the point of revenge, really? It doesn't heal you. But it clears space. And what grows there? Something quieter. Something steady. Something that doesn't sing in secret after midnight. Subscribe to the channel